Hello and welcome, fellow awesomeologists, to Awesomology. I'm Sue.
And I'm Ben. And in this episode, we're back with an update on our journey toward total and radical accountability. We seriously need a sound effect for when we say that. It's like, I don't know if it's like an explosion or angelic music. I don't know, something.
Maybe both.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Exploding angels?
Yeah, I see like angels in like character of Chuck Norris or something.
Oh, Chuck Norris angels?
Yeah. Those are things, right?
I don't
They
know
are
why
now.
not. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so for next time. That'll be part of the
We're on it.
production of this whole thing. But for now, after our last episode where we ate crow for 45 minutes.
Got to keep us humble, right?
It's true. I don't know if we could get more humble, honestly.
This might be true.
But it feels amazing to come back and have something to share instead of having to go back to that old chestnut of, hey, we're being honest again.
That does feel good. That does feel good. And hopefully we don't have to do that anymore. But if we do, we will. But yeah, we talked in our episode entitled Getting Back on Track. We talked about recentering ourselves on the challenge and figuring out next steps from there. And Sue, you had an idea, but you gave me the choice to either learn all about it or step to the side and take the ride with the rest of the team, which I happily did.
Yes, you sure did. And now that I know your opinions on some things, right? Because we ended up doing it. Spoilers. We ended up doing a survey. I can explain to you why we did it and what our end game for this part of the process is. And you, because you have the show notes in front of you, there is no big secret that we're going to talk about our team being functional.
Right.
And you actually even said it in the last episode, which, side note, do you listen to the episodes?
Not all of them.
Okay.
Being totally honest, I only listen to them when I'm listening to something else, and
Okay.
conveniently the app notifies me that a new episode of Awesomology is out. And every now and then I'll actually click on it and at least start to listen. And I guess depending on what it is, what we're talking about, I'll be like, yeah, I want to listen to all this again, make sure that we at least sound like we know what we're talking about. Or I'll get into it and be like, oh yeah, I remember what we talked about. I'm good. I don't need to listen to the rest of this. So the short answer is yes and no.
Sometimes.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that Nick is doing the producing, I always did listen back. But since we've passed that on to Nick, I actually had to admit to him when he's like, oh, well, so there's this one thing at, whatever, like halfway through, and I don't remember exactly what it was you said. You listened to it. What did you say? I'm like, Nick, I don't listen.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So I felt bad. So I listened. Anyway, is the point. And you talked about the fact that there are these, in the book Revolutionize Teamwork, he talks about sort of 7 steps to accountable, right? And the first 5 steps have to do with making sure you have a functional team. Right. Once you have a functional team, you can move on to that radical accountability,
Right.
which we have coded,
Yeah.
quote unquote. And I really got to thinking after we were talking, like, what are we stuck on? And I knew for me, what I was stuck on is I felt like there were gaps in some of those functional areas. Now, the important thing to tell people right now is that our team is functional.
Right.
We do work. People ask us for things. We do the things, and then the things go back to the people, and they get their things.
Right. And there's a difference between functional and accountable. Maybe that's
Right.
what you're getting to.
Well, first of all, I don't want anybody to think that I was questioning whether we were functional.
Sure.
I know people do their work, and they do good work on our team. But the book outlines 5 really specific areas that create a functional, quote unquote functional, that sets the stage for accountability. And so you can have a team that is functioning and it can still have gaps in terms of these 5 areas,
Right.
if that makes sense. So what I did is look at what those 5 areas are and thought about what are the best ways I can ask a question that gets to any gaps that we might have. And also, like, what are the things that I'm worried about? Where are the gaps that I think I see? And can I ask questions that either confirm or don't confirm that the rest of the team sees the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
So what I thought we could talk about today is to start, because I have the data, haven't gone over it with the team, felt like the team should hear what they think before I tell anybody else. But I think this gives us a good opportunity to talk about what are those areas of functionality and what do they mean?
Yeah.
And then next time we can talk about the survey.
Perfect.
Boom. Sounds great, right?
Sounds awesome.
So the first step to a functional team is one we have talked about multiple different times. And that is, do we have a clear and commonly accepted purpose? So we talked about our accountability statement on maybe every episode we've done so far.
Yeah, I think so.
And that the first question was on the survey was, what is our accountability statement? Now, I'm going to give away something to you because I know what your answer was.
Yeah.
And this will be the one thing that I will say that I'll also tell the team, spoilers, nowhere in the survey did it say you couldn't go find it.
Sure.
So I asked the question, what is our accountability statement?
Yep.
And 50% of us did not know what it was. The other 50% of us probably went, including me, went and copied and pasted it.
Yep.
And put it in there. And the question really was, what is it and what does it mean to you?
Right.
Right? So everyone that didn't know it, didn't put it down word for word, circled it, right?
Sure.
They were close to it.
Yeah.
And also were beautifully transparent. I don't know it word for word, but
Yeah.
it is, these things.
It includes these things, and
right.
here's what it means to me. Yep.
Right.
That was my answer. Yeah.
Yes. So that, just to start out the survey, was interesting. And to be honest with you, I did that deliberately so that we could have a conversation about tools. The tool is available to us. Mm-hmm. No, we don't have it memorized.
Yeah.
But we have talked in a number of different conversations. Where is it? What does it say? How can you go find it when you don't know it? Mm-hmm. And I just think that it opens up this idea of you don't have to have everything that you need immediately at your fingertips 24 hours a day.
Right.
What you need to know is where you get the tool when you need it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So that was a sneaky one, but here we are.
Yeah.
I did it.
Lots of purpose behind it. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this accountability statement, which talks about us being advocates and apostles and really being the people who support and advocate for the brand, and it extends across any brand that we work with.
Right.
Right. And most people got pretty close to that. That's our purpose. Mm-hmm. So the next step then is, do we have a consistent and useful way to measure if we're meeting that purpose?
Right.
And the book goes to great length to explain that you can't be accountable to what your purpose is if you don't know what it is, if you don't know how to measure it, if you don't know how to get to that point. So my question for you is, now that we're having this discussion, how would you think you can measure something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think knowing the kind of business that we are and the people and organizations that we help, like one of the first things that comes to mind with me is like a satisfaction or a perceived satisfaction, right? So if we're helping, because at the end of the day, a lot of the work that we do is helping organizations grow, achieve their goals, whatever. But whatever, within those organizations are people that we're helping, right? So that's why I threw the word perceived in there, because we might be helping one person at that organization do their job better, or, take a load off their plate, whatever. So, if the work that we're doing is either not at all contributing to the organization's success, or loosely contributing to the organization's success, or maybe entirely contributing to it, what really matters is whether or not that person feels it, because they chose to hire us, right? Or that group of people, if it was a board or a department or something, right? So at the end of the day, the connection to what we do in an organization's success or growth or whatever could be arbitrary. It could be only locked inside the feelings of the person that hired us. Now, hopefully there's something else like, dollars or, growth or something that is a bit more measurable and black and white. But we also know that in marketing, those things don't always exist. So for us, I think whether those things exist or not, somebody's satisfaction with the work that we're doing for them is something that we can get a measurement on, right? Are you happy with how we're helping you? Is what we're doing relieving stress or giving you time to do other things that you want to do, whatever. There's a bunch of questions we could ask to get to understanding whether or not the people that we work for or with are happy and satisfied with us, right? So that's one.
Yeah.
And then, there's all that other stuff like business results, the bottom line, membership growth, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. It really, I think, is a good exercise every time to be asking ourselves, how can we help this person see if this is driving results, if it's, moving the needle? How do we help them make that connection, knowing that ROI is very often a big, fuzzy, overwhelming idea in marketing, right?
Right.
Another thing I think of is, when we think about advocating for a brand in terms of measurement. And now, I don't love the idea of having to tattle on ourselves every time, but there are things that we let slide. That we make a decision, we're like, okay, fine, do that in purple.
Sure.
It's not your color. Yeah. It's the wrong font.
We know it should be blue, but fine, purple.
But I'm tired. I can't. And maybe it's not that outright, but I think there are things that we become permissive about. And maybe because it is easier to, particularly when we're talking about clients, it's easier to allow the client, like customers always right sort of attitude, than it is to say, let's talk about your brand. Let's talk about the long-term ramifications. Yes, I know you want to talk about ROI, but let's talk about the long-term ramifications of you making choices like this and making a habit of it.
Yeah.
And if after we have that conversation, you want to do this thing in purple today, you do that. But I wouldn't be doing my job as an advocate for your brand if I didn't talk to you about how many times people go, oh, well, why don't you just do it? Now do it in orange, and now do it in, now let's put Comic Sans on it as a font. And,
right.
So that it seems yucky to start to make tally marks of, like, that's when we let go and that's when we let go. But it's a measurement.
Yeah. Yep. It's a measurement. And, if we're going to stay true to the work that we do and the, our purpose and what we say our purpose is, there may just be times when a relationship just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, if, as the professionals and as the people that say, this is your brand and here's some things that you need to consider that we need to do our best work for you, if there's constant resistance to that or that's always overlooked and stuff, at the end of the day, our name is on the work too, right. So while whether that's, in plain sight or not, we're attached to it. So, we do need to make the decision as to whether or not we're comfortable with that. And that is an example of the kind of work that we do and how we do it that is very clearly attached to our accountability statement. There's also examples, and we have some recent ones, very recent ones, where somebody's process or response time or how willing they are to get something on the calendar might prohibit us doing our best work. And that's another reason maybe from time to time to say, this just isn't going to work. I think that's a way for us to deliver. There's lots of agencies and providers and stuff that talk about their clients as partners, and the level of reality or honesty or how much truth there is in using that term partners, I think varies from provider to provider, right? We've not necessarily done that. And I think it's maybe because of where we're at as an organization and growing and, kind of like finding ourselves through that growth, where, we haven't said that. But if we did, I would only want to do it in like the truest, most genuine way. And if someone wasn't being a partner, then it's time for us to not work together.
Right.
That's really tough for any business to say, whether you've been around for a little bit or a lot of it, whether you're making a little money or a lot of money. But particularly for a business that's maybe in the growth stage or finding itself, it's more difficult to even envision kicking a client out, right? Or saying no to a potential partnership. But maybe that's something that has to happen if the work that you're doing or the way that it's happening is, it doesn't fit your systems, it doesn't fit your processes. Those are huge red flags that you need to be aware of as a provider, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we have some experience with clients that didn't, I don't know why the phrase "get with the program" is the only thing that comes to, but basically paid us for our advice, paid us for our work, didn't follow it, didn't do the things, or even try to follow that, and then didn't know why it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then that is a client we don't have anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And that's never to say, well, if you had done the thing that we said, it would have been successful.
Right.
But boy, if you don't do anything, it's not going to be.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's responsibility on both sides in a situation like that for sure. I mean, I can't help but look back at those kind of situations and be like, yeah, we probably should have recommended something different or simplified it or done something. Maybe we missed the mark on creating buy-in on the thing that we were doing for them so that they did the thing that we said they should do, or, as their consultant or as their hired help, they would have followed through or whatever. Right. And probably dancing around the topic because we want to be respectful of everyone involved. But
it's hard not to, especially because of the people we are, it's hard not to second guess, did we do everything?
Right.
And it also serves as this really great example of, there's this possibility that we could have done we could have done other things, maybe.
Yeah.
But also maybe not. And maybe that's just someone who, they weren't ready to be a partner.
Right. Yep.
And, hopefully they will in the future.
Yeah. Right.
But moving on. Okay. We're on to number 3, which is, does our team have competent people?
Such an easy topic.
Yeah, so simple. and will be so easy to talk about in public with our team. Well,
we said that right at the beginning of this whole process, right? Like all of this was going to be super easy.
Simple. Yeah.
I mean, just another example right here.
Yeah. So I really love this question. And actually, I stole another concept that was sort of an epiphany for me from another piece of the leadership training. So to hear this same concept in 2 different lectures was interesting. And that lecture was about coaching. And it started with this idea that when you're coaching someone, you have to start with the idea. You have to go into coaching with the assumption that the person you're about to talk to is innately creative and competent. If you walk into that discussion either thinking that they are incompetent or unable to create the things they need to create, you can't coach them. Because you're always going to be holding something back. And when you talk about leadership and coaching and the mindset that can create, you could be coaching that person toward another job.
Sure.
If you don't think that they are competent to do your job. So this, as you know, coming up as the third part of having a functional team, was really eye-opening for me to think, we have to all assume. What we have to talk about is, do we all assume everyone can do the work? Mm-hmm. Because once you establish everyone on the team thinks we can all do the work, then you can talk about gaps. You can talk about, is knowledge missing? Are there certain responsibilities that need to be shifted? Is there a process? But until everyone agrees, yes, we're all competent, there's no point. You do, and teams do, talk about, have people they think are incompetent on the team, and then dance around it.
Right.
Say, well, what if we change the process? Well, it doesn't matter if you change the process if the person's inherently incompetent.
Right.
So,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that competence thing?
Well, I mean, the first thing that just comes to mind is how important it is and incredibly difficult at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Because thinking of how, like, the battle that I had in my head as I was filling out the survey, like trying to like be honest and, answer, in a real and transparent way. Like, you can't mask competency with like potential, you know what I mean? So like, just because you're hopeful that somebody can become competent or learn something or whatever, the question is, does our team have competent people? So like, you're kind of looking at right now what you have this moment.
Right. And
if the answer is no, like, you need to be clear about that, because like you said, like, until you can get to agreement on yes, you can't address any of the other gaps, so I'm super interested and afraid and all of that to like have this discussion with our team, because it's a real conversation that has to happen. And people's personal insecurities or their reality of what their competencies are or aren't kind of have to all be thrown out into the table for us to answer the question in a real way and move on as a team, and that ain't gonna be easy.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and what sort of excites me about it, though, is it gives us, once we can get past that, right? Once we can all sit together and say, okay, everyone here thinks everyone else is competent. So number one, friends, you don't ever have to question if the people on our team think you're competent.
Right.
That's out the door. Everybody thinks you can do it. Number two, that means we're going to treat you like you're competent. So it's exciting and challenging. That means we can approach each other in a way that gets rid of some of the, I don't know what some of the excuses we make for other people before we even have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So we can say, yeah, I know you're going to figure that out.
Yep.
And it's part of talking about those real issues too. So I believe you're competent. If the thing you're missing is information, you've got to talk about it.
Right.
So you're not going to get to do, I'm incompetent, and use that as an excuse. So the challenge is then to become more honest with each other.
Yeah.
And say, I know I could do this, but I'm afraid to tell you I don't know how to do it. So.
Right. Yeah.
I think it will be exciting, and I think I'm probably giving away the answer to how everyone answered that question.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
but we can dive into that more next time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm really, like you said, excited to see what that means for the team to know that. Now I just need to respond with honesty when something is given to me, because the assumption is that I'm competent.
Yeah.
And either say, I need more information, I don't know how to do that, whatever, right? And
right.
here we go. Gaps identified, information clarified, all the things that are needed to keep things moving forward instead of the unspoken
Right.
that can really hold people back, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And teams back.
being someone who I can be really hard on myself, my natural assumption goes to, like, I don't know how to do that. I can't figure this out. Therefore, I'm incompetent. So just us all having a conversation, I think there are other people on the team that might feel the same way. Being able to say, yeah, nobody's ever going to tell you you're incompetent here. So get past that, and P.S. don't tell yourself that.
Right.
And because nobody here believes it.
Yeah, you're the only one that thinks it.
Yeah, you're the only one who thinks it, and it's because you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
So verbalize the question
Yeah.
instead of pooping on yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Nice.
I think that'll be very good. Number 4, I did not want the answer to this, but do we have processes in place to help us achieve our purpose? And I think this is one of our weaknesses. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, same. I mean, without getting into the answers of the survey, like, I was excited to answer this one because I knew that by us agreeing as a team that we don't, which I'm assuming there's some level of agreement on the team that that's the case, then we get stuff out there and talk about what processes need to be developed or enhanced or created, right?
Right.
So, and I also am more excited about this than dreading the answer of it, because we have talked about process stuff recently as a team, and probably thanks to a lot of this work that we're doing right now, right? Like incorporating this into our planning at the end of last year and stuff. We've talked about some processes, so I don't think it'll come as a shock to anyone on the team that this is an area of improvement for us, something that we need to focus on, prioritize. So I'm less concerned about the reality that we're in and everyone being on the same page about it. I am concerned about us doing something
Right.
about it, right? Like prioritizing it, making time for it, because that's that work that, like, we're not including that on an invoice for a customer or for
Yeah.
a client, right? Like, you helped us develop this process. At the same time, though, some processes are developed when you're actually like working on real stuff, right? So we need to take advantage of those opportunities and then also be real and prioritize
Right.
process development. 'Cause it's incredibly important.
Yeah. Well, and as a Lean Six Sigma certified,
Ooh, nice.
process
she's
improvement.
totally flexing right now.
we should
She
have
got
a bell
both-
for every time, because I know I've brought that up.
She's got both arms up. She's flexing
Yeah.
on.
I'm actually wearing my green belt under
Yeah.
this. And
You get a belt with that? Like a real belt?
you know what? The person who did our training made us belts.
That is beautiful.
Made us nice little belts.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah. Don't ask me where mine is.
Okay.
But when you start to look at processes through the lens of process improvement, and you understand the difference between the one transaction that maybe happens between you and I, and the whole life cycle of the process, I think it's a blessing and a curse, because sometimes we will have these conversations on the team, and it will be there will be agreement of like, oh no, it's fine if I have to do this thing and I just give it to that person and everything's fine. Well, that is one transaction in an entire process.
Right.
And if we have barriers to get that to you, if we have barriers after you've given it to this other person, you're not addressing the possible problem in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I view it differently but we've talked about this before. A lot of the rest of the team is focused on tasks. And sometimes I'm focused on tasks, but a lot of the time it's more a step removed from tasks. And it's easier when you're a step removed from those tasks to see the process in its entirety and think about it and think, like, how did we get where we are? And there's also this aspect that some of the processes that get us to success start and end outside of our team. And that can be scary to talk about.
Right.
Because it can be, and it sort of leads us to our fifth question, which talks about shared fate.
Yeah.
If we could have pristine processes inside the team, but if we can't get the thing to us to do the work,
Right.
or if when we're done with the work, it doesn't get where it needs to go, the process is flawed.
Right.
And that means the shared fate of the entire organization is at risk.
Right.
So, speaking of shared fate,
Yeah.
you ready to talk about it?
I think so.
So, the question that I asked on the survey was, if one person on the team fails, does the whole team fail?
Mm-hmm.
Or can the team still succeed if one person fails?
Yeah.
And what did you say?
Man, I don't remember. You know how long ago I took that survey?
Well, what do you think now? Sitting here, what do you think you said?
I mean, right now, like if I was answering it right now, I would say like the answer is not yes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that the team feels a true shared fate. At times, with certain things, et cetera, like, yeah, probably. But definitely not all the time in a true, like, consistent way where it's a true, like, team shared fate. You know what I mean? I think, and I don't know, without diagnosing the problem right here, I think there's a number of reasons why I can't just give a straight, like, yeah, 100% shared fate, our team. We got it, So.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I think
Short answer is no.
It's in the business world. It is pretty normal not to really have, because we judge everyone individually in the business world, right?
Yeah.
So I can be an excellent employee and you can tell me I'm an excellent employee. Now would be a great time to tell me I'm an excellent employee.
Stand by, audience.
And our team could fail. But I could basically stand to the side. Nah, in my position, this isn't what I would do if I were on the creative team. I could be a great designer and the team could still fail. And you could still tell me I'm a great designer.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't matter for the team
Right.
that I'm good at my job if I let everyone else down.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Spoilers. I agree with you that I think for our team, it would be about talking about the definition of failure, because I can make a mistake and the team survives.
Yeah.
But I can't absolutely tank.
Right. Yeah.
I can't completely fail and the team still allow itself to be called successful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we live in reality, so we know that individuals are going to fail. Teams are going to fail every now and then too, right? And as long as that's shared failure, maybe that's the one way where it's acceptable.
Right.
But it's interesting that you use the word survived when you talked about, I could fail, but the team could survive. Like you could fail and the team could be perceived as completely successful, like, and everything in between.
Right.
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 So side note on this, and maybe something to dive into in the next episode when we talk about our results. But I think another thing that's like informing me as I think about this question is maybe a personal insecurity about, like my individual perception, right? So like if something that the team puts out there is not perceived as successful or just is straight up not successful, but the things that I interact with more often or the people that I talk to more often or something have the opposite perception. I think I have this personal fear of getting too much credit for what the team does or getting credit that's focused solely on what I do or the way that I interact with people or the kind of work that I do, what they see me doing. and less attached to what the whole team does. Therefore, yeah, Ben's great and does good work and everything. The team, not so much. When really it's like, well, Ben is a part of that team.
Right.
So like, you can't say that about Ben if you can't say that about that
Right.
team. You know what I mean? And like, I think I have I'm personally really concerned about how that all plays together and what people's perception is, and two, what the reality is, right? Like at the
Right.
end of the day, somebody's perception of whether or not we're doing good work or not doing good work or succeeding or not is probably, well, definitely less important than what the reality is, but also sometimes the perception is the reality, right? So,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
so a little rambling there, but maybe something to dive into next time.
I think for us, it's important to try to find a place where we look at this with like a capital S success and a capital F failure, right? So you can make a mistake. A project cannot get the desired results. And those things fit in the daily life of a marketing team.
Right.
But success, the capital S success, is what we're building toward, which would be, again, meaningful measurement, right?
Right.
So some statistically important number of things we do, having data that says they succeeded, having a good perception around them, etc.
Right.
And capital F failure would be that number transposed. So
Sure.
a statistically important number of those things just being absolute bombs.
Right.
And you have to track all of that. You have to pay attention to all of that to know, are we capital S successful or are we capital F failing? As opposed to like, I didn't like the picture that they put in that thing, and so to me that was a failure. They,
Sure.
you know,
Yep. Yeah.
those are little things. Those are kind of baby steps. But if we consistently deliver things that people don't like, then we're pushing ourselves toward failure.
Right.
Yeah.
That'll be fun to unpack.
It will be fun to unpack. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
As always, I enjoy.
I'm your number one fan, Sue. I'm at all your TED Talks.
You are. You actually are. And I am sorry about that. So, okay. So that was it. Those are
Awesome.
the 5 steps to functional teams. Do
Yeah.
we have a clear and commonly accepted purpose? Do we have a consistent and useful way to measure if we're achieving the purpose? Does our team have competent people? Do we have processes in place to help us achieve our purpose? And do we have a shared fate? And I just thought I would repeat them so they were all in one spot for people. If they want to write them down, write them down. Come
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Take a note. I started taking notes. It's 2023. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. You're like an OG note taker now. I mean, you started doing that like
2022, like late 2022
Yeah,
already. I
right.
was taking notes. I know, right?
So do we discuss barriers now, or all that aside?
I think we should talk about what's next.
Okay.
So I know what's next is that we're going to review those results with the team,
Right.
go over that, and
then the fun part.
then the fun part, talk about what are the action steps
Right.
to fill in any gaps.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I'm really working hard to do is to not walk into that with preconceived notions
Yeah.
of what I think the action steps are.
Right.
And that runs contrary to every fiber of my being. I want to walk into that room with solutions.
Yeah.
And
Well, I assume that you won't be the only person in the room doing that. Well, I know that because I also have the same concern. And everybody took the survey, right? So as soon as they know that this debrief is going to happen, they're going to start thinking about, what did I share in the survey? What are the solutions to fix the things that I mentioned in the survey that need fixing? What
Right.
are the gaps, So everybody's going to have that challenge. I'm really curious about when it does come time to solutions or gap identification and stuff, how do we prioritize? Because we, and we're not special or so broken or anything like that. Every team has opportunity to fill in the gaps to create improvement. And whether we have a list of 3 or 30, which one's first?
Right.
I'm excited to see how we get to that. And I'm super excited to know that we're even talking about it. This is how we get to that accountable team thing, right?
So what happens if we go into that conversation with the survey results and it's crickets?
Well, this is where maybe we need to talk about some ground rules, right?
Yeah.
Like crickets are unacceptable.
No crickets.
We're at the end of the day, we're talking about teams, right? And if we don't hear from the team, we're probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
So I think, maybe some ground rules or expectations will help. And, not that we need to force anyone or expect 100% participation with every single question that's asked in the room, but we got to hear from everyone, a acceptable amount.
Right.
What that is and how we get to that, well, maybe I have to chat a bit before that meeting happens to make sure that we're on the same page and hearing from everyone, but it'll be important.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always my number one concern going into, and frankly, no tea, no shade to our team. That is anywhere, any meeting I go into that I know that I am responsible to get buy-in and engagement,
feedback, anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that can definitely be the initiator for the downward spiral of what's wrong with me. Why won't people talk? What am I not saying?
Right.
And yeah, like you said, not just our team. Any meeting, anything you're leading, or where what you're hoping to learn is critical to what you're trying to do, whether it's your job or a volunteer thing you're supporting or making your spouse or partner happy. Like,
oh no, I stopped doing that.
Oh, okay.
I'm done with that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
We've been married a long
Yeah.
time.
So when he's quiet, it's just like, all right, well, see you later.
Please keep it down. Pipe down over there.
No one asked you to participate. You were supposed to just be listening.
Right.
Got
Right.
it. Okay. Well,
Yeah. Well, and it seems like when you talk about accountable teams and dealing with real issues, that needs to be part of the discussion in terms of ground rules. Like we can't. This is not an edict from, we didn't go up on the mountain and bring down 2 tablets.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is something we're building as a team, and if you're not going to be accountable to the discussion even to work toward these things, then we have to talk about why you're not accountable to it.
Right.
So much easier just to pipe up and don't make us say, let's talk about why you won't talk.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm excited for the next.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am excited too. We're excited that everyone is along for us on this journey. We are, again, I'm going to keep repeating this until I know the answer.
Yeah.
We're going to publish these updates on the second Wednesday of each month. Last month was a little bit late. And you're going to find our regular episodes on the 4th Wednesday of the month. If you miss them, or if for some reason, hypothetically, our schedule gets a little off kilter, you can always find them right in our regular podcast feed.
You've got it. Thanks for tuning in, friends. Be awesome. We'll see you next time.
The Awesomology Podcast is a production of Exclamation Services. Thanks to Nick Mulliver for sound production and Kylie Ganther for our cover artwork.
Executive producers are me, Ben Bauer, and my friend Suzanne Campbell.